Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever just tapped a button on your phone and marveled at how instantly a photo uploads, a message sends, or a ride gets booked? I mean, it really feels like magic, doesn't it? But as you probably guessed, behind that sleek glass screen, it is definitely not magic. It's a highly structured, brilliantly engineered system. And today, our goal is to completely demystify all that hidden magic for you. We're going to take the abstract and honestly sometimes intimidating world of backend architecture and break it down into perfectly digestible concepts. So if you've ever found yourself wondering what is really happening behind the scenes of your favorite apps, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, really quickly, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, what is the backend? Then we'll cover client and server, move on to request and response, break down exactly how websites work, and finally, we'll bust some common myths. All right, section 1, what is the backend? Let's take a look at the hidden engine. So there is this fundamental divide in software between what we actually see and what runs the show. Think about the front end first. This is your user interface, your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React. If we think of a restaurant, the front end is basically the dining room. It's the menus, the decor, the ambient lighting, the nicely folded napkins. But then we have the back end. This is the busy kitchen and the pantry. It's the business logic, the APIs, databases, authentication, servers, the whole shebang. You don't see the chef chopping vegetables or the manager checking the inventory in the back, but without them, you're definitely not getting your meal. The front end makes it look incredibly good, for sure, but the back end does all the heavy lifting. And wow, just look at what that heavy lifting actually entails. The back end is handling the core business logic, it processes all the data, manages databases, secures your accounts with authentication, integrates totally different systems using APIs. So the really absolutely crucial point here is this. Without these back end functions, Instagram literally couldn't store your posts, WhatsApp couldn't deliver your messages, Uber couldn't calculate your ride fare, and mobile payment apps couldn't process a single cent. The back end is the absolute backbone of modern digital life. Moving right along to section 2, client and server. This is the core relationship. So knowing that the backend does all this massive heavy lifting, how does your phone actually access it? Well, it all starts with the client. And a client is simply a requester of services. It's the device or the application that is just constantly asking for information. When you open up Google Chrome, your web browser is a client. When you tap the Spotify app on your phone, that mobile app is a client. Even the desktop software you use for work every day is a client. Its entire job in life is to wake up and say, hey, I need some data. Now, if the client is the requester, the server is the provider of those services. It is the powerhouse waiting to hand over whatever data was requested. When you want to scroll through some photos, the Instagram backend is the server providing them to you. When you want to watch a movie, the Netflix backend is the server streaming it right to your screen. When you check your checking account balance, your banking backend is the server securely pulling up those numbers. Let's ground this abstract tech vocabulary back in our restaurant metaphor, because it just makes it so relatable. In digital architecture, the client requests and the server provides. In a restaurant, you, the customer, are the client. You sit at the table and you make a request. The server is, well, exactly what it sounds like, the waiter who takes your order, combined with the kitchen that prepares it. They do the hard work and provide the final dish back to you. It is just a beautifully simple continuous loop of asking and receiving. Which brings us to section 3, request and response. Basically, how do they actually talk to each other? How do our digital customer and digital kitchen actually communicate? When a client wants something, it sends a formal request. Here is a literal snippet of what that code actually looks like. Get/users/123. Now sure, it might look like computer jargon, but it's incredibly straightforward once you break it down. The client is literally just saying, go get me the information for user number 123. Going back to our analogy, this is the exact moment the customer tells the waiter, hey, I want the pepperoni pizza. And then the server replies. It sends back a standard JSON response saying ID 123, name Kevin. The server searched its pantry, which is its database, found the exact user the client asked for, and sent the data back in this really clean, readable package. Boom. This is the kitchen successfully delivering the hot pizza right to your table. Let's trace this high-speed life cycle with a real-world example. Imagine you open Instagram to view someone's profile. Step 1, your phone, the client, sends a request. Step 2, the Instagram API receives that request. Step 3, the backend logic queries the database for that specific profile data. Step 4, The API packages the data up and sends a response. And step 5, your phone instantly displays the profile. This entire 5-step journey happens in mere milliseconds, and it's happening millions of times a second all over the world. Mind-blowing, right? All right, section 4, how websites work. The journey of a single click. This is where all those puzzle pieces we just learned about, the client, the server, the database, requests, and responses, finally come together. Let's walk through the complete mechanical flow when you type a URL, like Instagram.com, right into your browser. First, your browser asks a DNS for the IP address. Armed with that, it connects directly to the server to send its request. From there, the server processes the data and queries its massive database to pull your specific feed. Next, the server generates the response package and sends it right back to you. And finally, your browser receives the data and displays the fully formed web page. 6 clear, digestible phases that transform a simple click into a totally seamless digital experience. Which leads us to section 5, common myths, completely busted. Let's clear up some major misconceptions about the backend. First up, probably the most common mistake, the myth that the backend is literally just a giant database where information sits. As we've just seen, that couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that the database is just the pantry. The true backend is a massive, complex infrastructure. It is the APIs routing the traffic, the complex business logic making all the decisions, the strict security protocols keeping hackers out, and the servers coordinating every piece of it. It's an entire bustling ecosystem, not just a dusty storage unit. Okay, here's another one. When people hear the word server, they immediately imagine these giant, noisy, freezing cold rooms filled floor to ceiling with blinking physical computers. And hey, while those absolutely do exist, the modern reality is very different. Most servers today actually run in cloud environments. Companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft host these vast, virtualized server networks. You don't need a physical machine humming away in your office to run a backend anymore. You basically just rent a slice of the cloud. And finally, our third myth, the idea that the front end talks directly to the database. Oh man, this is a huge security no-no. The reality is that the front end must always go through the backend API. Think about it. You wouldn't let a restaurant customer walk straight into the kitchen pantry and start grabbing ingredients, right? They might take the wrong thing, or worse, steal something. You make them go through the waiter. The backend API acts as that waiter. It enforces the rules, checks permissions, and ensures the database remains completely secure. Well, we have covered some incredible ground today, but to be honest, we've really only just scratched the surface of how the internet fundamentally communicates, which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to ponder. Now that we know the client and the server talk to each other, what really happens to a single request as it physically travels thousands of miles across the internet's global maze of IP addresses, DNS routers, and complex TCP/IP protocols? It is a fascinating rabbit hole, and it's exactly what you should be eager to explore next. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep that curiosity alive.